As the government seeks to enact a plethora of radical policies that will change our nation forever, it's fair to ask who exactly gave them a mandate or confidence to go ahead with any of this. This is Ben Scallan and you're watching Gript Media. Irish political leaders today often like to think of themselves as very moderate, modern people. They consider themselves to be very middle of the road and balanced when it comes to their policies. As Leo Varadkar himself once recently said, speaking at the launch of a book on former Fine Gael politicians, the party leader said he believes that the party is often wrongly perceived as a conservative party. We are not. We are very much a party that is a centre party. So Fine Gael and their ilk in Fianna Fáil consider themselves to essentially be centrists, not too mad in one direction, not too mad in the other, but just in a nice kind of Goldilocks zone of calm, rational ideas. But is this actually true? I mean, let's take a step back for a moment and take a look at the policies that these parties have promoted and implemented over recent years. First of all, it's a matter of public record that there have been multiple instances in Ireland of transgender, biologically male individuals who identify as female and then end up getting put into female prisons. According to the Law Society of Ireland, for at least one of these individuals, it is understood that the prisoner was assigned a high level of monitoring after being convicted of 10 counts of sexual assault and 1 count of cruelty against a child. There was even one instance recently where a homicidal biological male who said they wanted to rape and kill women was put into Limerick Women's Prison, which we covered on Gript. Does this sound moderate to you? If you stop most people in the street at random, taxi drivers, nurses, barbers, plumbers, and you ask them, do you think this is a good idea or a good policy? What do you think most people's response to that will be? Of course, they'd be against it. It's extreme beyond belief and totally out of step with the views of the vast majority of people. And what about our criminal justice system? How often have you seen a headline like this from this country? Sex offender who poses a risk to the public given one last chance. A judge has agreed to give a convicted sex offender who poses a risk to public safety one last chance. Munir Garihani, 26, received a suspended sentence last May after admitting to attacking a woman on the street, quote, for the thrill. Garihani has 34 previous convictions, including one for sexual assault after he groped a woman from behind as she was taking money out of an ATM. He was registered as a sex offender for that offence. His other convictions include indecency, burglary, and theft. Are you actually kidding me? He's already had 33 chances too many, if you ask me. And this kind of thing happens constantly in this country. Someone gets done with child porn or indecent exposure to children, and they get a suspended sentence. Someone commits dozens of crimes and is still somehow free to walk the street, sometimes even after a deportation order has been issued, and they're still here over a year later for some reason. The justice system in this country is laughable. The maximum penalty under Irish law may as well be a €50 fine and or a stern talking to down at the station. Our crowd would find Jeffrey Dahmer with half-digested human brains in his freezer and give him 3 weeks community service for it. We're the best little country in the world to be a violent thug. Now, with all this in mind, would you say that these sentencing models are in keeping with the majority of people's wishes? Are these the policies of a moderate or centrist government? This is nothing short of chaos and insanity, and yet it's been going on for years, even as violent crime skyrockets nationwide. Call me crazy, but I don't think most ordinary people are thrilled about soaring crime rates while the state seems to do sweet F all about it. The government wants to lower the voting age to 16. It also wants to give illegal status to tens of thousands of illegal immigrants. Using carbon tax and other insane climate policies, they want to, quote, force private motorists out of their cars. Transport Minister Eamon Ryan even said that he wants 1 car to every 10 families. None of this is moderate or reasonable in any way. These are radical, extreme policies which 95% of people rightly view as utterly cracked. And of course, we haven't even talked about the lockdown yet. Now, of course, almost every country in the world locked down their economy. That part is not unique to our government. But do you want to know what is unique? The fact that we have had the longest lockdown in the Western world by far, according to Oxford University. Longer than Greece, Poland, Germany, Estonia, Romania, and Bulgaria combined. Not only that, but even when other countries were in lockdown, their restrictions were not as bad as ours. Again, according to Oxford, we ranked top 5 in the world for most restrictive lockdowns of any country on earth and number 1 in the EU. For example, religious services are banned in Ireland and have been for months and months, which may bother you or it may not. Maybe you're not religious and you don't care about the ban on services. That doesn't matter, that's not the point. The point is, religious services are not banned in any other Western European country. Right now, you can go to Mass in Germany, in Portugal, in France, in Britain, Spain, Italy. It's literally only Ireland that you can't do this. And that's just one example. So when you see these restrictions here and you think, yeah, it's pretty bad, but it's like that everywhere, that's not true. Our lockdown is uniquely severe and punitive compared to our European equivalents. Once again, these are not the policies of a very laid-back, moderate state. This is extreme and the vast majority of people don't want it. You know, on paper, the way voting in a republic is supposed to work is that the people cast their ballots for the candidates that they like the most, or often in this country, the ones that they hate the least. And at the end, theoretically, you should end up with a government that broadly represents the will of the people, more or less. No government is perfect, of course, but you hope that it'll at least be tolerable at the end. What we have instead is a loose Frankenstein cobbling of a coalition, with many of the individuals leading it barely scraping into their seat at the last election in their own constituency, and yet having ultimate power over the lives of the people and advancing some of the most radical policies known to man. Take Stephen Donnelly as a perfect example. Stephen Donnelly was elected in his own constituency on the 15th count. Now, am I saying he wasn't really elected? No, of course I'm not. He was absolutely elected legitimately. We have a PR system and I don't question his seat as valid. What I'm saying is, it's not exactly a ringing endorsement from the electorate. I don't think you can really say that the people of Wicklow rallied behind him like some kind of conquering hero and anointed him the king, let alone the people of Ireland. He has not been given carte blanche to do whatever he wants to the country. Simon Harris was also elected on the 15th count. Simon Coveney was elected on the 8th and final count. Leo Varadkar got in on the 5th and Micheál Martin got in on the 6th. Once again, my point here is not to say that the government itself is illegitimate or something. A close win is still a win and I fully grant them that. But the fact that the people, by and large, had so little confidence in these individuals that they barely scraped into their seats at the 11th hour and then want to turn around and radically transform the country is not warranted. They don't have a mandate for that, and it's not representative of the will of the electorate that they're supposed to represent. In fact, I would direct you to Regina Doherty as a perfect example of everything that's wrong with Irish politics. This woman lost her seat at the last election, coming 5th in a 3-seater constituency. After serving as the Minister for Social Protection for years, the people of Meath East showed her the door and said they'd had enough of her. And then, just a few months later, Micheál Martin appointed her as leader of the Seanad. This was outrageous for 2 big reasons. One, the electorate had just booted her to the curb and yet she still ended up with an important role in the government afterwards. It's a slap in the face to the people's wishes. And 2, even more scandalous, this woman campaigned to abolish the Seanad altogether in 2011. So she went from saying we should scrap the Seanad, presumably because she thinks it's useless, to losing her seat in the Dáil and then happily accepted a role leading the Seanad and getting paid a huge salary for the privilege after the voters had already told her to get lost. Talk about a slap in the face to the general public. And after all that, she had the nerve and audacity to complain that the people are being too harsh to politicians like her online.
A number of colleagues have talked today about the abuse, and I can only say what feels like it has gone from maybe 3rd level or 3rd gear, maybe into 6th gear of politicians at every level. Even political sympathisers and supporters seem to now think it's fair game to give their tuppence worth to our elected representatives. The discourse is available on a daily basis on all of our social media channels. It's now in our inboxes and it has to stop. We talked here a number of weeks ago about trying to encourage more women into national life, into public life, to encourage more younger people into public life. You'd want to be absolutely off your bloody rocker to encourage any of our children to come into this life and to have to put up with the abuse that we have to put up with on a daily basis. But the only people that are going to change it is us, and we need to do something about it, and I think that needs to start with the debate with the Minister for Justice in the next couple of weeks that I will organise.
The elitism is just staggering. And by the way, for the record, nobody should threaten politicians, obviously. You shouldn't threaten anyone. But you know that's not what she's talking about, because at the end she mentioned that we need to take new action and said that she's reaching out to the Justice Minister to deal with it, presumably to draft some new legislation. Threats are already a crime under Irish law. If somebody is threatening you as a public official, you can just call the police. So presumably she's talking about insults and criticism. People emailing their local representative to tell them that they're all bollocks and they've ruined the country or something along those lines. Now, do I support people being gratuitously offensive to politicians? No, I've been on the receiving end of plenty of abuse and it's never pleasant. You'd like to think that people would show a bit of decorum in a civilized society. But that's what you sign up for as a public figure. That's called free speech and living in a free society. Being able to tell the leader of your country that they're an idiot and not get a visit from the secret police because you dared be rude to the dear leader. Being rude or a bit of a jerk isn't a crime, nor should it be. If you don't like it, don't throw your hat into the political arena. You're clearly not cut out for this life. These people have almost no mandate from the general public, and yet they act like they've been given free rein to do anything they please. They act like they and their policies are above criticism. Newsflash lads, you aren't, and any power that the state has is merely loaned to it by the people. You have no power other than that which was given to you by Irish voters and the Constitution. Maybe if parties like Fianna Fáil, for example, made more of an effort to represent the will of the people, they wouldn't be languishing at 11% nationally. The Greens too have completely collapsed in terms of support. What they are doing is clearly not resonating with the general public. Maybe if these parties spent less time worrying about the effect of cow farts on the weather in Australia and making it easier for children under 16 to change their gender, maybe they wouldn't have to form coalitions with two other parties just to scrape together a tenuous majority. Just a bit of food for thought. Please like and share this video, and as always, if you enjoyed it, please consider signing up for a monthly donation via the link on screen to help us produce more content like this. Alternative media like Gript needs all the assistance it can get, and every donation goes a long way. As always, thanks for watching.